Hi there, this is Chris Stout, and we are going to be covering my 2022 BMW R9T Option 719 customer journey in this YouTube series. I'm glad to have you here, and we'll be covering a variety of different kinds of things on this bike. And to start off with is my customer journey. So I've been involved with motorcycles in a variety of different kinds of ways, quite the enthusiast for a number of years. My daughter and I went out to the 75th anniversary of Sturgis motorcycle rally. My wife and I went out to the Isle of Man and rented a motorcycle and motorcycle toured there and rode on the road course, if you will, of the TT race. And I took the Keith Code back in the day racing class, got my beginner's racing license at Road America. I also have a popular podcast, and we are getting ready to go into our sixth season. But during the first 5 seasons, periodically, I've had a focus on a variety of motorcycle-related kinds of things: vintage world record setting, land speed record setting, contemporary land speed record setting out in Bonneville, touring, etc. So if you're interested in hearing about some of those adventures and shows, do take a look. That show is called Living a Life in Full, and I hope you like that. That also then introduced me and segued into the area of documentary film, and wound up being an executive producer on the documentary Somewhere Else Together. That was just again, kind of born out of one of the guests that I had had on my show. So if you're into amazing motorcycle tours of 100,000 kilometers that take 2 years to do, with a lot of adventure in there, be sure to check out that movie. It's on IMDb. I think you can rent it or purchase it through Amazon Prime and probably some other areas, but do check it out. I highly recommend it. I've had a variety of different shapes and sizes and flavors of motorcycles over the year. My very first one was a Seika 550 in 1981, Yamaha Seika 550, and then kind of stayed with Yamahas until I could grow up and get into Ducatis. You can see some of these trophies here too. I got into doing some customizations and collaborations on design with builders and put together some bikes. Did an auctioned off Harley that you can see there that has been kind of repurposed from a speedster into sportster into a cafe racer that we did, and then auctioned that off for charity. From the Ducati side of things, I had a Club Sport 1000 that tweaked and showed and trophied, and then also that'll make sense to this conversation on this series. I had a 1962 BMW R69S, which was quite a unique bike. We'll talk more about that in just a couple of slides. So I kind of wound up with the last big project bike was a 2005 Ducati Monster that I collaborated with a number of other wonderful people. You can check out the show notes and see who else was involved with that. But kind of going the rounds of that, after I built it, it was profiled in a number of magazines. It was in Dime City, it was in Revival, it was in Pipe Burn. So I was really happy with that, and then took it to I was in a couple of shows, the Milwaukee Builders Invitational. We were proud to have it show there. And then the Ultimate Builders Competition in Chicago. So that was fun. It was great to be in those shows, great to see the other builds and bikes and whatnots. But after that time, we were living in Chicago. We moved. Post-COVID, we came up to Egg Harbor. We had had a place up here for about 10 years and decided it was our goal to retire up here and be up here full-time. So we did that. And when we did that, I needed a place to be able to have someone work on my Ducati. And I found Tytler's in Green Bay. And so they did oil changes and got me some new tires and things like that. But sort of with a project bike along those lines, it really wasn't the most comfortable to be riding around on some of the highways and byways up on the peninsula. So I thought, I built it. There's nothing else to do to it. I need to auction it off, which I did. And then I was bikeless and really missed having one. So since I'd had this relationship with Tytler's already, already, that was really like the key place for me to go and to take a look for what would be now this project, this series. So what is option 719? You may have heard about it if you've been in the BMW R9T interest world. If you look at their website, this is pulled from it about the history and the bike and the story. And basically, this was sort of their customization designation for the bike, where you would have people in the craftsmanship there in the factory that would do custom kinds of things. Like on this bike, we'll see, I'm going to go through with my purchasing of it, but I made the selection. It's got a hand-formed aluminum tank, and the paint, I believe, is all hand-done, pinstriping and all that stuff too. So it's really just a very high quality finish to it, and very loving care from the factory to the customer. And then these are some shots of my bike. I was able to finish off a restoration at the time that after I got it, and it was a cool bike. It was a 600cc kickstart, of course, back from that era. Had the Earl's fork, if you're familiar with that, the unique front configuration of that. Sounded great when it ran. It just was really kind of a fun bike. Had it in a couple of shows where every show it was in, it trophied. So I was very, very proud of it, but again, kind of terrified to ride it around or whatnot for fear that something would happen to it. So it had gone too. But really, that was the start for me to appreciate the engineering and bulletproofness of BMWs, and that got me back into wanting a BMW. So earlier this summer, I went to BMWmotorcycles.com, and if you go there, this is the link, they have what's called a configurator. And when you go to the configurator now, you will see the 2023 models. For me, it was the 2022 models. And when you go to it, then you are able to start to design and build your own bike, right then and there. And it's really kind of cool. It tells you some of the specs from it. It's 110 horsepower. The engine is 1170 cc, obviously opposed boxer. It's air and oil cooled, kind of again, to the tradition and homage to that engine. It'll get 0 to 62, 100 kilometers an hour in about 3.5 seconds. So it's got some get up and go. It's a 6-speed transmission, etc. So you can check out all the specs with this, kind of the out-of-the-box kinds of performance, but then also you can start to customize it. And what you see in this shot is the result of when you go through this configurator of what your bike looks like. So you can do a 360 spin of it on that website, which is very cool. You can try all the different flavors of it if you do a pure or an option 719 or the scrambler versions, etc., the urban version. So, and you can just kind of see what all that looks like, and you can try different colors, etc. One of the things I really liked about this configuration was the rear cowling. Certainly the tank coloring, and the fact that it had this sort of like pop of red on the middle part of the frame or chassis, if you will. So let's step through this process. So when you first get into it, you'll have choices of your paint colors. And again, if you do the 719 option, I think there is another color that went with this, but it does not look like this whatsoever. So I went with the night black matte and then aluminum matte. So the aluminum part of it is not paint. It is just a fine finished aluminum. So it's really kind of neat with that. And it also has probably about 2-inch long. You'll see this in my other video that's in production on the walk around with it and the Easter eggs that it says like in a little box 719. So option 719. So there's a lot of little Easter eggs on it that we'll talk about in that episode. And then I just basically selected the this package that when you do the 719. That you get the dynamic traction control, the adaptive headlight. The headlight's really cool. Again, there's a little Easter egg in it, and it's different from 2022, I think, from any of the prior years. It's got dynamic engine brake control, heated grips, cruise control, and ride modes pro, which allows you on the fly to go between just like a regular normal condition, a dynamic condition, a little quicker shifts, and a rain mode as well too, which is very, very nice. So for me with this bike too, one of the other reasons was, just beside the bulletproof engineering and the looks of it, was that I felt like it's not quite the cafe racer leaning and laying on the tank kind of thing, but it's still an aggressive, the controls are further back. You do somewhat lean forward a smidge, but it's much more comfortable. Right out of the box when I bought it, I drove it from Green Bay to Egg Harbor where we live, and that was a bit of a 60-ish mile, 70-mile trip, and it was really pretty comfortable right off the bat, right out of the box. So that was nice before I did any kind of tweaks and adjustments. So, and I should also say it's got a reverse front fork, and it's got which is fully adjustable for spring and damp, and it's also got an adjustable monoshock in the rear. It's shaft drive, of course, and the monoshock is really kind of nice, easy to get to, and again, when we do the walk around, you'll see more about that. So when you get this R19 package, these other kinds of things are in here. You do have an option of two other, well, there's I guess a stock wheel, which is wire, but not quite loomed the same way as the 719, so I did that upgrade, and I think it's well worth it, because just like a car, wheels somewhat make the bike, and also I think just a smidge more improved performance with this, because you could also get 5-spoke solid wheels that I think are just a little bit heavier, and because they're not carbon fiber, I forget what they're made out of, but these wheels I thought just really had the proper look for being more of a retro style bike rather than the spokes. And once you see them up close and the lacing, it's really kind of unique and neat to see. So again, with this package, it's got this Headlight Pro that's adaptive. It's got the dynamic traction control, engine braking, etc., like we talked about, the ride modes, and the cruise control. So they're just all itemized out there, and as you can see, at zero additional cost. And then also the ABS Pro and the heated grips that all are part of that 719 package. With or without, or I guess without that package, regardless, you also get a modest set of tools, which will go through a under seat look around and swapping out the pinion seat with the cowling in an upcoming episode. Like I said, a 6-speed gearbox, automatic stability control, their ABS, dual disc brakes, Brembo, all the way around, dual in the front, single in the back, but they're branded BMW on the back disc brake, but they're all Brembo. They're branded Brembo in the front, and I'll again get more into the specifics of those specs in the walk around. Analog speedometer and tachometer, comfort turn signal. So I forget the exact, there's a variety of different things, but it turns itself off, so you're not like driving for miles with your left turn signal on that you had forgotten to extinguish. You can also extinguish it if you wish to, but it'll stop after a certain speed is hit or a certain distance is covered, which is just kind of nice and geeky and handy. It's got LED turn signals that are amazingly bright, front and back, very bright rear light. And even though these are great, I have already ordered a rear tidy kit, so to speak, for replacing the stock taillight and combo taillight brake light and turn signals into one under what will be under the cowling kind of device. So stay tuned. That should be here actually next week, and we'll be doing a video on that installation. The LED headlight, like we talked about, and then there is standard spoke wheels, but I did the upgrade. And then also within both the tachometer and the speedometer, there's a multifunction display that tells you a variety of different kinds of things. It's got an onboard computer that, again, through the walk around, I'll step you through that and click through that and show you what you get. Like I mentioned too, it's got the upside down telescopic fork with adjustable compression and dampening, adjustable rear hydraulic spring preloaded brake, which is nice. You can also adjust that if you're doing two-up riding or depending upon what your weight and size is. Then it's also, oh, it's got a steering damper, which is very nice. I missed that on the Ducati Monster. I had it. I also had a 996 Ducati, and it had that. I really do enjoy that. It prevents any kind of tank slapping. Just makes for a much more comfortable, controlled ride for my tastes. The modular frame concept with the removable pillion frame. So if you wanted to just kind of go bobber looking with it, so to speak, you could pretty easily, with some Torx wrenches, be able to take that entire piece off, which is kind of cool. That I won't be doing. I do like the cowling, and I do like my wife to ride with me, so those things will be staying. But and actually, I never did two up. Well, you could have on the Monster, but I actually put when I got the bike, it was all kind of in parts and pieces, and the rear passenger pegs the whole apparatus was taken off, and I actually thought it looked kind of cooler with it on, believe it or not. So take a look at those pictures if you care about such things and see what you think. So in this case too, it's like some bikes that do two up, the cowling covers the passenger seat. In this instance, it's actually a totally separate seat. So right now with the cowling on, the seat stays in the closet. So if that swaps out, then you just actually physically get it. It doesn't just stay there and go under a cover. It's got very nice adjustable handbrake and clutch pedal or hand clutch lever. Very easy to do. Just pop off your gloves and rotate it to whatever you feel comfortable with. Ride modes we already talked about. Obviously, too, for theft prevention, electronic immobilizer when you take the key out. Chrome-plated exhaust headers, which are now already starting to turn. I'm anxious to see them get bluing on them. It's also, this is kind of cool, it's got a USB charging interface on the left-hand side, and then they set it up very nice at Tytler's to have a battery tender cord on or jack on the right side of the bike to easily put it on a trickle charge. And then it's a paralever rear suspension, which is the shaft drive part of it, and of course the two-cylinder Boxster air oil-cooled engine. So then with this, it was just really my journey was quite interesting along those lines. We had I can't remember exactly how long it took, but from the time that I had kind of put it together, then BMW contacted Tytler's, and I don't know if to be honest, I can't remember if I had a choice in that, or if we just automatically knew that was kind of like the closest place to do it. I was contacted by Tytler's about receiving the bike, and kind of double checked that everything that I had put together in that document that we just stepped through was indeed proper to what we thought, what I was hoping that the bike would be like, and it was 100%. All the pricing gets added into that, as well as I think maybe everything other than licensing and state tax, but basically it's dealer prep and everything. So once you've gone through the process, there's not a whole lot of surprises or anything like that when it comes time to purchase it and do the transaction part of it. I also, working with them, they really kind of did their magic. There's not a whole lot of these bikes out there. A lot of ones that you see on YouTube for reviews are done actually in Europe, where they're much more, obviously, since it's built in Germany, they're easier to get, and supply chain issues and transport issues and things are not the same in continental Europe as they are getting bikes, across the pond, so to speak, the Atlantic Ocean, to come over. So mine wound up in a port in New York, and then made its way from New York to Green Bay. And it really, in some sense, it really wasn't a terrible, tedious time to wait. I'll tell you, one of the tricks though, and one of the things that we had with this, that the staff at Tytler's problem solved for me, was that I believe I have my facts straight, that it's a very limited management from BMW corporate vis-a-vis getting proper titles to whatever state that your bike winds up in and is going to get titled in. So we had the bike was prepped, everything was ready to go, gas was in the tank, and we couldn't get a title, so they couldn't release it to me. So we had to kind of be on them, and then the FedEx came about 2-3 days later, and then I was able to properly take possession of the bike. So anyway, so I was really really happy with that. We did a nice walk around, a nice orientation to the bike. Tytler's is just a beautiful shop. It's kind of a fun place to just come and hang out and see all the different models and things. They not just BMW, but also Royal Enfield, obviously Ducati, Indian, and they just have some amazing bikes of kind of any kind of riding that you would want to do. They've got some bikes there to take a look at and to learn about and try on. So anyway, being the bike guy that I am and all the different kinds of flavors and iterations, this was just really a very good customer experience. They have a solid shop. I should also say, when I first arrived to Door County, I needed a place, a home to be able to have my bike maintained. The owner took me for a walk around the shop, told me about his experiences with motorcycles and his father's, and I just thought, okay, I am in the right place. This is a great place to get things done. And also when you get work done at their tune-up or tires or whatever else needs done, it's all done with full transparency, all done with your pre-approvals. And done on time. I've had them also pick up my bike and then work on it and then bring it back, which is a nice additional service that can be done as well too. So again, just 5 stars, high praise for the folks at Tytler's. And here's, if you want to get in touch with them, here's where they are. And here's their phone number. They do a lot of sponsoring of races at Road America, and I think possibly elsewhere. They've got an impressive team there of riders. And then again, I'd also recommend taking a look at the showroom. And I want to give some special shout outs. Red was my sales guy who held my hand and got me through the process and used his amazing network and skills to be able to make a bike appear and make it happen. That didn't take months and months and months to do. And again, I can't emphasize enough how tricky it is to get a bike exactly how you spec'd it out, this kind of a bike, in the Midwest and just maybe even in North America and in the United States. And Red was the guy. He was able to do that all the way through. I also had the pleasure, and all these are continuing relationships, with Jeff Larson. And I should also say too that Red gave me a call a week later. Just want to know how the bike was doing and how I was enjoying it, etc. So I really appreciated that kind of customer service and follow through. Jeff Larson works with marketing and promotions. He and I had met there before I took delivery of the bike, and I got to learn a little bit more about some of their racing and some of their other activities and stuff. And Jeff is an awesome guy that they have. Michael Kiley is the owner that I mentioned. Very first time that I ever stepped foot in the store was the day that I met Michael. And again, like I said, I knew that I was in the right place, that these folks, from owner down to every other person on the staff, really know their bikes, are big enthusiasts, appreciate motorcycles from a variety of different kinds of riding perspectives and touring and performance and racing and engineering. And just, it was, again, I knew that I had come to the right place with the Ducati, and now I feel like it's the same thing with this BMW. Chris Lackey helped with, I got some warranties on it to have a little peace of mind, and he very nicely, without any kind of hard sell or anything like that, stepped me through it and got me all fixed up with that I'm very happy with as well too. And then Jerry McCain, general manager, he again was collaborating with Red and Jeff with getting the bike in and getting that title there and everything. So again, just couldn't be happier. Very happy with the bike, and just feeling that level of trust with the folks at the dealership, and just knowing that everything's going to get taken care of and everybody's on top of things. And then again, like just a week later, I get a nice little email in my inbox from BMW, and it was a welcoming, hey Chris, dear Chris, welcome to your new journey. And it's a subscription to a variety of other kinds of things specific to my RnineT, and I'm anxious to get those. I love this sort of a thing. I love riding clubs and owners clubs, so happy to now be in this new club. So again, stay tuned to this series. We're going to have a number of them. I appreciate you watching here. Please do subscribe if you are into BMW R9Ts and perhaps also even the special option 719s. I'm going to have, I've already shot, but are going to be in production, some rides around Door County, Egg Harbor and Fish Creek, and heading north to Sister Bay and then back east and south to Bailey's Harbor, etc. So we're going to see what the bike does out on the road. And I hope you will enjoy those. There's not a whole lot to say in those, but you'll just be able to see it. I've also got I'm going to have customization, so to speak. One's on the Akrapovič mufflers that come stock on it. I've also ordered a Beeline moto for navigation and getting around. Also going to just do some other simple kinds of things, bar end mirrors. I got a carbon fiber, I don't know how to describe it, but like a rear fender that really is kind of like a rear tire hugger to kind of keep things neat and tidy under there and keep the stone chips out of that rear shock. And as I mentioned earlier, I also ordered an LED tail tidy to take off kind of that long extended license plate frame and turn signals and brake lights. So again, enough for today. Thank you so much for watching this. And again, please do subscribe and keep an eye out for these next episodes that are going to be coming out. We've got the walk around, we've got some how-tos with the rear cowl adjustments, like I mentioned, with clutches and brakes and whatnots to kind of customize it to your size and your riding style. So I hope you'll find these enjoyable and educational, and I really appreciate you tuning in. Take care. Ride safe.